Hey guys, V. Rigoni, Max, high performance real estate entrepreneur. So what we're going to be talking about today is what we've talked about a little bit in the past. I brought it up before, but it's about the economy. Where are we going and what's that going to look like? And then also all the gurus that were out there, all the real estate gurus that were out there saying, oh yeah, they were going to cut rates in the last quarter of last year. Well, all that shit's over with. They're not doing any of that. But hey, let's get back to that in a minute. Let's talk about, if you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and then it allows me to stay interested and put out more content. Listen, man, I haven't asked you for anything. I don't sell anything. There have no training programs. The day may come when we put some stuff together, get it out there. But I've been doing this for now 2 years. 2 years of free content with no ask. You're not going to find that anywhere else on any other channel. There's always an ask. Now, the day may come, like I said, where there might be an ask. But right now, all we're saying is, hey, if you like it, then hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. So let's get back to what we're talking about here. And that is, like I said, I've been doing this for over 2 years now. And when they started to raise interest rates, when they were even talking about it, and inflation was completely out of control. And they were talking about the fact that, they didn't know where this was going to go. You had people out there, the people that you listen to on other channels. And I'm not trying to personally bash anybody, but there's this thing called wisdom, man. And it's called experience with time, living through it. That's how you gain wisdom. And I've been saying to you that the interest rates, once they stopped raising interest rates, and it was going to take a while, they raised interest rates 11 times over like 18 months ago. Like they started like 2 years ago. Now, they haven't raised interest rates for a while now because inflation has kind of moved down, but they're in this bind. And I said to you that it was going to take years to get through this. And how did I know that? How was that not just speculation and bullshit? Is because I lived through this in the 80s. So when you guys are out there and you're leaving me comments like, hey, you're just a boomer or you're the OG and all this bullshit, it's because I lived through this stuff and I know what to expect. Now, history doesn't repeat itself, but it sure as hell rhymes. And this is like the very first time that the Fed was committed to trying to break inflation due to raising interest rates. Now, there have been a couple other times where they've raised interest rates in between, the lowering of rates and everything else, but nothing on the basis of trying to grab that tiger by the tail. And that tiger was inflation. This is the first time since the 80s. The early freaking 1980s. I know it's 40 years ago, but that's what is happening. And that's why the Fed is now saying, now all the speculation is, and the Fed is saying, well, maybe we'll raise rates. It'll be data dependent. We'll see how the things work. Inflation's coming down. We don't necessarily have to wait until it hits 2%. Because they know that if they wait too long, then they're going to go what happened in the middle 80s last time, and that is a long-term recession. And they don't want that. So far, they've been able to skirt a recession. A lot of that's because of all the money that was printed, almost $7 trillion, right? Because of COVID. And that money sloshes around out there. And then there's a thing called the velocity of money that multiplies the effect, that every time the government prints a dollar, it has a multiple effect on that dollar. So that dollar could have a 2 to 3 times effect on the economy because it keeps changing hands. And you can't just suck out $6 to $7 trillion out of the economy. It doesn't just work like that. They have been sucking some money out of the economy, but nothing like they printed, and they're always printing more. They're always you got the monetary policy, you got the fiscal policy, and the fiscal policy is what the government's spending, right? The White House, Washington in general, the Congress, and they spend like drunken sailors, and they don't even have the money. We're going to be like a $2 trillion deficit in this next budget. How ridiculous is that? And so the Fed is now, and on top of it, now we're in an election year, and they don't like to do things in an election year that will cause the one politician or the other politician to benefit from it. And so they've been telling people that, yes, there will probably be a rate cut. Maybe we get one, maybe we get two. What the hell's the difference? What is that going to do for anybody this year? So if you've been waiting around, this is taking its time. I knew this would take this kind of time. I was telling people back then, it's a 2 to 4 year cycle once they start to raise interest rates. Well, we're well into the second year. Now, it doesn't have to go 4 years. It can be by the end of this year where they start to adjust, especially, hell, if we get a different administration in there that's more fiscally, responsible. And I know that's kind of difficult to say that because even if Trump gets elected, he's not fiscally responsible either. They just both parties, they just spend money. They just like to spend it on what they want to spend it on. But in any case, you got to understand the Federal Reserve is there in order to control the money supply, the monetary policy. So what are they talking about then? They're really just talking about 1 to 2 interest rate hikes before the end of the year. And they can't wait too long to do that because then they start to get too close to the election date in November. And so, I don't think they do anything in June, but come July, August, you might see some, a rate adjustment. But is that going to change anybody's life? No. So what we really are discussing here is that monetary policy is really not going to affect anybody until next year. And you'd be like, yeah, but Vic, this is only March. I get it. But monetary policy is a long-term scenario. And coupled with, like I said, with the election, which really throws a wrench into it. So you might get a December, adjustment after the election. You might get one before the election. Can't say, but this idea that they were going to cut rates four times, this year, 5 times this year, and then they're down to 3 times, and now they're predicting 2 times. I don't know. All I know that is even if they drop to 2 times, what is the difference? Is it going to have that much impact on anything? No. So what we're really talking about here is what the hell is going to go on next year at this time when we're talking about monetary policy. And then therefore, how does that work when it comes to real estate? Well, let me tell you, every month they wait to cut interest rates significantly. In other words, the rest of this year, there's going to be a lot of people where that temperature on that seat is getting turned up. It's like those heated seats in the car. When that thing starts burning you up, you got to shut it off. Well, in this case, there is no shutting it off. When they start raising that temperature, that even if they get 1 or 2 rate cuts, these guys that are underwater on these adjustable rate mortgages with their apartment buildings fully rented and they're underwater and they've been just praying every day that the Fed starts cutting interest rates so they can refinance and get that loan down at a lower rate. The same kind of people that bought property with hard money and then used more hard money in order to fix it up. And now they're sitting there and they're totally screwed. And they've been hoping that this year they would get those 4 to 5 interest rate cuts, and then rates would start dropping, and then the long-term rates will even drop more. But that's not happening. So the opportunities are just going to start to come rolling in. You already have seen, right, cap rates on commercial and on multifamily buildings. They've expanded 6.5%, 7%. They used to be 4.5% to 5%. When you expand the cap rate on a piece of property, you lower the value of the building. Yes, you do. Totally opposite of what goes on in residential. And as we've talked about before, the financial crisis of 2008 was all about residential for the most part. Multifamily, got hit by a little bit, but then came right back. In this case, residential is staying strong, and multifamily and commercial is what's getting hit. Now, do I mean by every multifamily building? No. Real estate is local. And inside that local market, it's the people that have made really bad decisions. Because what's happening now is they spent the money to buy buildings at the top dollar price. They put bad mortgages on them, adjustable or hard money, like I just said. Then they spent more hard money to fix them up. And now they got to get out of these loans. And they were, like I said, they were hoping for this year to be able to do that because they're running deficits. They're just running deficits through each month, even though those apartment buildings are rented, those commercial spaces are rented, but the debt is killing them. The monthly payment is killing them like it was during the financial crisis of 2008 when people were buying houses with 0.5% mortgage rates. And then all of a sudden the mortgage rate doubles or goes to 1.5%, and they were getting killed then because their mortgage payment went through the roof. Well, that's again what's happening now. And the reason I go back and I be a little bit redundant here is to really get you to understand this is a new scenario. The fact that they are not going to cut these rates this year to any significant amount, it's going to create more problems for these commercial properties. And am I talking about, apartment buildings that are 200 units, 300? Yes. But I'm also talking about apartment buildings that might be 10 units, 12 units, 6 units. People make stupid mistakes. Doesn't matter what the size is. They still make the different mistakes. It's like I've said to you before. I remember going, it was in December of I think it was December of 2019. Boy, the time goes by. That I went to a real estate seminar, and everybody, all they were talking about is buying property, no matter what the price was, buying multifamily, no matter what the price was, just getting adjustable rate mortgage, just getting hard money. And these guys are all talking around the table, talking about doing this. These guys are screwed now. And what that does, though, is it leaves for opportunities. One person's problem is another person's opportunity. There's all these vulture funds that are being created right now in the world of finance to go out and buy these properties, just like what took place in 2008. That's why the amount of residential property owned by corporations went from about 6 to 8% total up to 25%. Well, they're getting ready to do the same thing again, more selectively, right? No different than before. Not every house went in foreclosure before. Not everybody was in trouble before. Just like now, not every multifamily building will be in trouble. But there'll be enough of them in trouble that no matter what your price point is, no matter what your buy box is, they call it, right? The price of the property you're looking for is in your buy box. What does that look like? No matter what that is, you'll be able to take advantage of that. Now, I know I've talked about residential. That's the easier way to get into this business. But think a little bit bigger. Don't I talk about that? Think big. Put together 1 or 2 partners. Put them together. Go buy a 12-flat, a 24-unit, something that has had some problems because of the financing. You're going to buy a building that in many cases can be turnkey because they just got done fixing it up. But they got to get out of that hard money loan. And then the hard money loan they use to redo the building. These are where the opportunities are going to come. Yes, you can still go look for residential, but you're not going to see the same level of opportunity, right? Which means that your returns will be different. Now, again, if all you can think is you can't think bigger than single family property, no problem. I don't put you down. I don't say that's a bad thing. Just make sure you're buying it right. Don't overpay for it. You can always, the time will come when you go to buy these things, you can always refinance when rates drop. Rates will drop. But just make sure that if you're buying a residential property right now, that you're not overpaying for it, that you have the proper reserves, and that you're able to understand that your cash flow is going to be more minimal. Your positive cash flow is going to be reduced because rates went from, 3.5% to 6.5%. It has that mortgage change, the increase in the mortgage payment has really hurt residential real estate, right? From a standpoint of investing. It's sucked out a lot of the profit. You're literally going to be back down to the $200 or $300 a month profit. But we know that you don't just buy for the cash flow. You need the positive cash flow, but that's not why you're initially buying it. You always want to think cash flow, but you also have to understand that as long as you have a positive cash flow, you also get the depreciation. You also get all the other benefits that come along with owning real estate. So once again, if you the only way you can think is residential, go residential. But what I'm trying to get across to you now is that get ready. The opportunities are coming. Put together a couple of guys from work, a couple of ladies from work, put a group together. Start looking to say, hey, instead of buying a single family home, why don't we buy an 8-unit building or a 12 or a 24? Because that's where you're going to get the discounts. See, the cap rates have gone up, which has reduced the prices of those properties. And by the end of this year, without the interest rate relief, you're going to see some individual opportunities in your local market based upon who put the wrong kind of financing on a piece of property because they paid top dollar for it, but it's the wrong kind of financing that is destroying them right now. And that's coming. So get ready for that opportunity because the Fed is doing exactly like the Fed did in the early 1980, 81. And that is they raised interest rates and then they left them high for a while. And then that starts to cause dislocation in certain types of markets. So remember, let's get out there. Think about what I'm talking about. Think big. Start now. Grow fast. V. Rigoni, Max, high performance real estate entrepreneur. And think about what I'm saying to you, man, because the opportunities are coming. Talk to you soon.